Namaste. So today we start on an amazing text called Patanjali Yoga Sutra. And in today's talk, I will introduce Rishi Patanjali, Muni Patanjali. I will also introduce the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, the text itself. And we will cover the first four shlokas of the text. So this is what we'll do today. Hopefully, it will take about 45 minutes. So let's start with Patanjali. So like with all important figures in ancient India, figures of note, when Patanjali lived is a matter of great debate. So the historians by and large place him between 500 BC and 500 AD in the 1,000-year period, CE, sorry, in the 1,000-year period. And his historical, when he was around, is confounded by the fact that there is a Patanjali who wrote on grammar as well. And the historians believe that the same Patanjali who wrote on grammar was the Patanjali who wrote the Patanjali Yoga Sutra. The yogis, however, dispute this. So they say, no, there are two different Patanjalis because the writing style of the two are very different. And that the Yoga Sutra Patanjali, the sage Patanjali, Rishi Patanjali, Muni Patanjali, lived around 3000 BC, which is 5,000 years ago. But anyway, as far as I am concerned, I always say we are interested in what he wrote rather than, when he lived. That's let the historians and the chronologists sort that out. We are interested in his work. And we will see that he was an absolutely extraordinary man. I mean, so extraordinary that some say that he was not even human, that he came from some other dimension. But anyway, let's not go there at all. But whatever we say about him will fall short of who he really was. He was not the inventor of yoga. The tradition has it that some historical Shiva taught yoga to the Saptarishis and to Parvati. And then that yoga got written in many sources of the Upanishads, in the Tantra, in the Shramana tradition. So in many sources, yoga got written about. And it took many different dimensions. And Patanjali felt that the central core, central aspect of yoga needs to be put in one place and developed into a philosophical system. And the result was this text, this amazing text called Patanjali Yoga Sutra, which is absolutely unmatched in its brevity, in its poetry, and it is extremely scientific. I'll explain all these three to you. So, a yogi, a person familiar with Sanskrit, who reads mantras, if he were to go or she were to go through the 196 shlokas in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra text, it will take not more than 15 minutes. So that's how brief, how potent each shloka which Patanjali wrote. And it is poetry. You will see the shlokas, you will like the sound of it. It's very poetic. And it's science because yoga, Patanjali, he eschews the supernatural. He eschews that, the God gives you some powers. He says all the powers are within you. So to that extent, very close to the Samkhya philosophy. And therefore, whatever he says is pure science. He says, if you do this, this will happen. If you follow this, this will happen. And he says, don't believe me, find out for yourself. And he's very, very, very rare because amongst the mystics, among the Buddhas, he's a scientist. And amongst the mystics, He's a mathematician. He's so precise. He takes you in such small logical steps to the edge of space and time, and then he takes a leap beyond space and time. You don't even know that you've taken the leap. He's so smooth, and therefore he's a fantastic mystic, a great poet, a great logician, but he's very rare because he combines all these three into an unbroken symmetry. He's an absolutely extraordinary talent. And I hope that when I cover little while, a few minutes from now, his definition of yoga, you will be hooked to his absolute genius. So coming to the Patanjali Yoga Sutra itself, it comprises, it's a text of 196 shlokas, broken up into 4 chapters of padas, as they are called. The first pada is Samadhi pada, which has 51 shlokas. What does this pada do? It basically defines yoga. It introduces a concept of vritti. We'll cover that today. Vritti is basically a disturbance in your mind, or a pattern which forms on your consciousness. And then he breaks down, this is the most brilliant part, he breaks down a very subjective experience of samadhi into steps and categories. We'll cover that in future sessions. And he also propounds on the idea of Ishvara. That is a collective principle of the cosmos. The collective principle of cosmos is the Ishvara. So, although yoga is based on Samkhya philosophy, Samkhya does not believe in Ishvara, does not posit a Ishvara, but yoga differs only in the sense that it posits a Ishvara. Then the third is called Vibhuti Pada with 56 shlokas. Sorry, the second after that is Sadhana Pada with 55 shlokas. And it talks about kleshas, or what causes tensions in life. It introduces kriya. So samadhi, this samadhi is for the advanced yogi. Then for the middling yogi, there is kriya yoga. We'll cover that in future sessions. And it also introduces the 8-limbed, or the famous Ashtanga yoga of Patanjali, which is for beginners, so to say. And in the Sadhana Pada, he describes the first 5 limbs of Ashtanga yoga. Then the third chapter is Vibhuti Pada with 56 shloks, where he describes the last 3 limbs, which is the Antaranga yoga, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi of Ashtanga yoga, and talks of the many psychic powers or siddhis which a yogi gains as a result of his advancement in yoga. And finally, a beautiful chapter called Kaivalya Pada with 34 shlokas, which describes liberation. It is what Nirvana is to Buddha, Kaivalya is to Patanjali. So I will now just share my screen, and I will show you. So these are the 4 shlokas that we. Sorry. These are the 4 shlokas we'll cover today. The first 4 shlokas in the book. The first shloka is Ata Yoga Anushasanam. Now, therefore, complete instructions on yoga. The second shloka is the most important shloka, and I'll spend some time on it, is Yogasya Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga is blocking the modifications of mind. If there's some disturbance somewhere, please, Yeah. Yoga is blocking the modifications of the mind or patterns of consciousness. We'll go through all this. I'm just telling the shlokas first. Then once that happens, then tada drashtu swarupe avasthanam. Then the yogi is established in his own essential nature. Once the yoga chitti nirodha takes place, then the yogi is established in his own essential nature. And if he is not, vritti sarup mittarata. In other states, there is identification with the modifications of the mind. Okay, so we'll go through all the 4 shlokas. There's some disturbance coming from someone's. Yeah, can that person mute, please? Yeah, thank you. So let's do the first one. Ata yoga anushasanam. It means now, therefore, complete instructions on yoga. Now, admire his brevity and how much meaning he has packed, how carefully he has chosen the words. Ata indicates that the instruction is being given to an aspirant who is now ready to receive this instruction. This is not meant for a lay person. It is meant for an aspirant who has purified himself or herself to receive this instruction, who has gone through the mental purification through karma yoga, through bhakti yoga, through hatha yoga, and he has gained a degree of control over his mental disturbances. So he is in a state of mental control and balance. He or she has gone through the pains and pleasures of life and come to the conclusion that pleasure ultimately leads to pain, that life is dukkha, the life is sorrow, and it's empty. There's nothing to be gained from worldly life, and he is in a state, very restless state, desiring the real thing. He has seen through the ephemeral pleasures of worldly life, and he wants bliss. He wants the real thing. So to that person, Patanjali says, I am giving the instructions regarding yoga. It's not to anybody. So it's a very, very potent verse. Now the word anushasanam needs to be explained. It derives from shasan, which means command or instruction. And the word shastra comes from that. Shastra means a very ordered process of instruction. That is Shastra. Shastra gives you instructions in a very ordered process. So it derives from the word shasan, which means instruction. Ishvara also derives from the same word shasan. As the Shastra is an ordered process of instruction, Ishvara is the governor which brings about order in the cosmos. So Ishvara too derives from the word Anushasana. So therefore, this instruction is for someone who has explored worldly life. He has found it meaningless, who has purified his or her mind, and Patanjali is giving instructions on yoga. What is the instruction? What is the nature of the mind? What is the practice of yoga? And what are the results of the practice? So this is basically what Patanjali Yoga Sutra is all about. So you can liken the person who's ready to a Rama when he was 16 years old and he was going through a complete personal meltdown. He says, what's the point of living? And he went to sage Vashisht, who gave him instructions. So that is the kind of person for whom this Patanjali Yoga Sutra has been designed, right? For a very lay person, you can read the Hatha Yoga Pratipika, which just gives you instructions on yoga, what to do, what is asana, what is pranayama, etc., etc. But this is for someone who is absolutely ready to receive this instruction.
Uh, Sorry, but I was a little distracted for a moment. Could you tell me the story again for whom it was done?
No, there's no story. The Basically what I'm saying is this shloka means that the instruction is being given to an aspirant who is ready to receive this
No,
instruction.
but you gave the story of Rama, no?
So Rama, at the age of 16, he went through a very great personal crisis. He said, "What's the point of living when you die and you get reborn and you die and get reborn? There's no point in living." So he was going through a personal crisis, and he went to Yog Vashisht uh,
Acha.
for Vashisht to explain to him what is life all about.
Oh, I see.
Something like what Nachiketas received from Yama. So these are
You mean,
many stories. So one of the stories was the Ram story. Okay.
so you
So
mean even Rama went through a moment of crisis?
So if you read Yog Vasishta, it starts with Rama going through a crisis at the age of 16. Okay. So so now we come to the second and one of the most important shlokas in Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Yogasya chitta vritti nirodha. And we'll go into some detail of this. It says yoga is blocking the modifications of the mind. Some commentators say yoga is blocking the patterns of consciousness. They take it to another level and say there are patterns in the consciousness. Blocking that is yoga. Now, this is a very, very, very precise definition of yoga. I told you that Patanjali is extremely precise, is very mathematical, very precise. And this is the regarded as the best definition of yoga, because most people define yoga as joining, joining with the divine is yoga. Yuj, the root word of yoga is yuj, which means to join. So they say when the individual consciousness joins with the supreme consciousness, that is yoga. But it is an imprecise definition according to Patanjali, because we are already joined. We are never separate from the divine. We are divine. What is required is to remove the avidya, the ignorance, so that the fact that you are that consciousness becomes self-evident. And how does that happen? By chitta vritti nirodha. That means by the cessation of the modifications of the mind, by the cessation of the patterns of consciousness. So it's a very precise definition. You cease the modifications of the mind, and the fact that you are that consciousness will become self-evident. It is such a precise definition. So let's go into each of the words. What is chitta? So chitta basically means, the closest word in English is consciousness, and it covers the entire gamut of consciousness. So if you look at borrowed terms from Western psychology, it will cover the conscious, subconscious, and the unconscious. If you look at more Indic way of looking at it, then it will cover the waking state, the dream state, and the deep sleep state. We went through that in my earlier talks on Vedanta. And the totality of these three states, the waking, dream, and sleep state, is chitta. The fourth state is purusha, which is pure consciousness. When you block the patterns of consciousness in the waking, dream, and sleep state, then that fourth state, which is purusha, becomes self-evident. Now, I have to explain this a little bit. So imagine consciousness as a cinema screen. It's a flat white screen. It's just a screen. It is still, there's nothing going on in it. It's just flat, right? Now, in the waking state, now in your chitta, in your mind, There are senses and there is a mind. Mind is nothing but a reflective surface. It is inert. It doesn't have any consciousness. And Purusha is the term which yoga refers to. A similar term in Vedanta would be Atman or Brahman. But since we are talking about Patanjali Yoga Sutra, I'm using the word Purusha. So in the mind is a reflective surface in which consciousness of Purusha reflects. And in that reflection, it appears to us that the mind is conscious. Mind is inert. Mind is just a mirror in which consciousness is reflecting, and it's making it appear that the mirror is conscious. All right. So the senses are all outgoing. Your hearing, sense, touching, sight, etc., all outgoing, and they're constantly bringing in sense data from outside and giving it to the mind, and consciousness reflecting on the sense data to make you conscious of whatever the data is. I've seen a rose, I've heard this voice, the breeze has touched my skin, whatever it is, I've tasted this sweet. So all the sense data is brought to the mind, and the consciousness lights up that data and you become conscious of it. So basically, there is a screen, and the mind and the senses are together like projecting a movie on the screen, right? And when you're involved in the movie, you're seeing all those patterns on consciousness, but consciousness itself is just a white screen, just a white screen. So all those patterns on the consciousness are happening and making you feel that you are involved in the movie, you're involved in the drama of life. These are the patterns on the consciousness. So in the waking state, the pattern is created by both senses and mind. In the dream state, senses are not there. So only the mind is there, and one aspect of the mind is watching another aspect of the mind. So that is creating a different kind of pattern. And in the deep sleep state, even the mind has folded. So there's only consciousness, and there's complete ignorance. There's a consciousness of ignorance. So the pattern is ignorance. So let me repeat, in the waking state, the pattern is created by senses and mind. In the dream state, it is created by the mind. And in the deep sleep state, the consciousness is perceiving ignorance. All right. But these are the patterns which are appearing on consciousness. And it is these patterns which Patanjali says that if you stop them, then you will be absorbed in your real nature, which is the blank screen. So many times when we meditate, people have this impression that you have to block your thoughts. That is not true, because blocking your thoughts is impossible. As long as the mind is active, thoughts will be there, right? So you cannot block your thoughts. And the thoughts are basically the manifestation of the patterns on consciousness. The waking state consciousness, the dream state consciousness, the deep sleep state consciousness, in those patterns, thoughts arise. So when you block the pattern, the thoughts will go away on its own. So meditation does not mean blocking the thoughts. Meditation means that let the thoughts be there, be detached from the thoughts. Let the thoughts come, go, come, go, come, go. You cannot stop the thoughts until and unless you reach a state of samadhi. Okay. Connected to this is another idea, which is the 5 planes in which the mind works. So for that, I will just very briefly explain to you gunas. The gunas are the 3 gunas: tamas, rajas, and sattva. And these gunas are are there in nature, in Prakriti. So Prakriti has these three gunas which are always in dynamic equilibrium. So, so gunas are not separate. You cannot separate the gunas. They're always together. If you were able to deconstruct the gunas, separate the gunas, then those gunas and not Prakriti will be the building block of the cosmos. Prakriti is the building block. The gunas are the energies which are always in some kind of a dynamic equilibrium within it. Sometimes Rajas is high, sometimes Tamas is high, sometimes Sattva is high. So what are these gunas when we come to an individual? So Tamas is basically inert energy. It makes a person dull, inert, heedless, and there's perversion in thought because the mind is very dull. So dull that you think everything you think about is very perverted, right? Rajas is active energy. It represents egoism, restless activity. It's the energy of restless activity. You're going from one thing to another thing. Ye khatam karna hai, I have to do this, I have to do that. And it also is the source of greed. Greed for money, greed for position, greed for possessions. So all that comes from Rajas. And Sattva is very clear, illuminative energy, where wisdom, bliss, and can seep in. Is the energy which gives you moral courage. This is something which I have to do, whatever anybody says, and I will do it. That vritti, that forbearance is a result of Sattva. So these are three energies which are constantly moving around within us. And when we are dominated by Tamas, we are in a mental state called muddham, or dullness, inactivity. And the yogic prescription when you're in this state is to do your Hatha Yoga. So do your asanas, pranayama, to get out of the state, right? When Rajas dominates, you are in a state of Shiptam. So Tamas energy gives you Muddham, and the Rajas energy gives you Shiptam state. Here, there's a lot of thoughts flowing in your mind, but your attention is very scattered. You can't concentrate on anything. You're going from one thing to another thing. You're restless. And the energy, therefore, very easily dissipated. You can't hold on to that energy, right? And constantly active mind, it tires you out. We have all seen this. All of us have experienced this, right? With the practice of yoga, the first step you reach is a third state called Vikshiptam, where the mind fluctuates between Muddham and Shiptam. That's the first stage of yoga. So your mind is shifting from dullness. Sometimes you feel dull, sometimes steadiness, and sometimes very active. But it is better than feeling either dull or always active. But this is, now you're going from one to the other. That is Vikshiptam. Then with continued practice of yoga, Sattva begins to dominate. And when Sattva dominates, then you become calm. Your mind becomes very concentrated. You can focus on a single activity without any effort. And that one pointed mind is called ekagrata. It's a Sanskrit word, Hindi word, ekagrata. You all know that. And when the mind is dominated by Sattva, then the prescription is that you increase the Sattva through meditation, through dhyan, right? And the fifth state of the mind is niruddham, which is samadhi. So here, you're talking about blocking the patterns of consciousness. Your waking, deep sleep, and dream state consciousness is all blocked. And now you are experiencing samadhi. You're absorbed in pure consciousness, which is niruddham, right? So this is really the main meaning of Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. And later on, just in a few minutes, if you have any questions, I'll be very happy to take this. If you understand this, you have really understood the very foundation of Patanjali Yoga Sutra. And once those modification of minds are blocked and you are in the niruddham state, it is tada drashtu swarupe avasthanam. Then the seer or the yogi is established in his own essential nature. So when the chitta vritti nirodha takes place, the vritti cease. The gunas no longer affect the mind. Vritti, the word vritti comes from, you take a pool of water and you drop a pebble, you'll have a circular motion. We have all seen it when, drop something and, the water keeps like going outward.
Disturbance.
Yeah, disturbance, till it goes away. But in normal life, you drop one pebble, goes away. Second pebble, before the first pebble is gone, finished. Third pebble, fourth pebble, fifth pebble. That's the way of life. But if all those disturbances go away, then all that is left is that stillness, that consciousness, right? And that is what he says, that you establish in your own essential nature, your own divinity, that you are that consciousness. There's nothing else. There's no modification of mind taking place. So you are established in the consciousness. Your consciousness established in the consciousness itself. Here, if you again look at the movie, the movie is going on, but you don't. For you, it's over. You are that screen only, right? Your likes and dislikes have gone. Your ego consciousness related things have gone, and you are in your true nature. Avasthanam means restoration of the original state. So he said, yoga is the definition of yoga is that the realization that you're divine, the realization, and this says when you stop the modification of mind, you're established in your original state, which is pure consciousness, Purusha, right? And if not, then with vritti sarupya mitrata. That means in other states, there is ultimately a modification of the mind. So when you're not abiding in your essential nature, your chitta is always going through this changes, this disturbances, this patterns of consciousness is imposed on the screen. So this movie is going on with your mind and your senses and your karma, and everything is projecting on the screen, and you're very involved in it. So just like in a movie, you get involved in the character's life, and you cry with the character, laugh with the character. You're involved in the drama of life. You're swayed by the drama. So it is all that is going on, but your essential nature remains uninvolved. The screen is uninvolved. Today this movie, tomorrow some other movie. The screen is totally uninvolved. But if you are not abiding in your true nature, then you become part of the drama. So cessation of vrittis, when you drop the pebble and the vrittis stop, and then you stop dropping the pebbles, and whenever the vrittis stop, they stop, and then you become the witnessing consciousness, the witnessing Purusha, and that is the main message of Patanjali. So I'm happy to take questions, if there are any.
Srinath Saab, thank you very much. It was excellent explanation, and enjoyed very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I can't see you. I don't know why.
You have to trace me. Chashma laga hai ye. I'm waving my hand.
Yeah, I got it now.
You said it started 500 BC.
No. So the historians say that he was born in 500 BC. Most yogis say that he was 3000 BC or earlier. Being a yogi, I would go with them.
So the name of the yogi was?
Patanjali.
Patanjali.
It is said that the temple in Chidambaram in near Pondicherry
Mhm.
The yogis say this, that
Mhm.
was consecrated by the sage himself,
Okay.
5,000, 6,000 years, 5,000 years ago.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
not the same temple because temple kept being rebuilt,
Changing. Yeah. Adding,
changing with
changing. Yeah.
time. But the
True.
original temple in Chidambaram was established by him. And the
Oh,
yogis said that the energy over there is absolutely amazing,
wow.
because that particular lingam is
Mhm.
established in the Akasha element, space element. It's not
Okay.
the other temples are an earth element, water element, air element,
Mhm.
Agni.
Mhm.
Thiruvanamala is Agni element. But this
Mhm.
one is a space element, very difficult to concentrate. And therefore, the main deity over there is Nataraja and not the lingam.
Okay.
They say that he has established. The yogis say that. There's no proof, nothing.
Mhm.
I'm just telling you
Mhm.
what the yogis say.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Do we know anything about his life apart from the fact that he composed this?
Too far back. And it's too way back to know anything about his life. But I have heard some yogis talk about him, so they think he came from some other dimension. But
What about what is the basis on which historians date him to 500 BC?
so I believe there's a confounding factor. There is a text in grammar written by some Patanjali. The historians believe that it is the same Patanjali as of the Yoga Sutra. So that Patanjali, there's evidence to say that he lived around 500 odd BC,
And
kind of a thing.
Patanjali
And
is different from Panini, right?
sorry,
That Patanjali who wrote the grammar text is different from Panini.
different to Panini, yes. Another person. Panini was separate, and there was a Patanjali. The yogis say that these are two different Patanjalis. They're not the same Patanjali. I mean, it's possible that 1,000 years from now, somebody would say Ramdev was Patanjali.
Yeah, it's all possible.
Uh,
No, I mean, in certain yogic traditions,
uh,
I'm aware of the head of the organization claiming that he's reborn.
Oh
Patanjali.
yeah. There are a lot of people who do that. Even in the Dalai Lama says that he remembers that he was a student of a very famous Buddhist teacher in Nalanda called Chandrakirti.
Mhm.
तो अभी दलाई लामा बोलते हैं कि हाँ, I was a student in some past life. So yes, people do say that he is a reincarnation.
The challenge with all the historians is that they cannot think beyond 1500 BC because they have dated the entire history around 1500 BC.
Yeah.
And that is what was the norm during the British times. And they cannot, so they have to even put Mahabharata around 1500 BC, 1000 BC, and so on and so forth. I think we have to really redo this dating business and change the narrative.
There was a time when I got involved in all this chronology and stuff like that. But later on, I decided that my focus, my interest was more in the work rather than when the person lived. So whether Shankara lived in 600 AD or 300 BC, it doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is what Vedanta says.
Correct. So from a yogic perspective, that makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. Whether Buddha lived in 600 or as the chronologists now say 1800, again, it doesn't matter to me. What matters is the life of Buddha and his message. So but with everybody you will find this, because as ancient Indians we were very poor in recording history. For us, history didn't matter. Time was, this happened, that happened. It just didn't matter, I think, to our ancients.
In fact, I think, I mean, this is my perspective and I could be wrong.
Yeah.
That it's not that the ancient Indians did not record history. It's just that a lot of history has been destroyed. Destroyed means I mean, even today, if you look at it, there are 30 million, 3 million Sanskrit texts which are available across the world, of which only 5% have been opened.
Right.
So what is there, we don't even know.
It's possible. What you say may be absolutely right.
And second is, I mean, to destroy the history, I mean, in any colonial system, there are two things which the colonialist always destroyed. One is the chronology, which is the time. So they impose their own time system.
Right.
And the second thing that they always destroy is the language, or
Correct.
try to destroy the language. So once any civilization loses its bearing on time and language, then it's very easy to sort of make them a colonial state.
Right. They also destroyed education for us.
So the first thing they destroyed in education itself is language.
Yeah, they destroyed language. You're right. They destroyed Sanskrit completely. Okay. If there are no questions, can we close this?
Just wanted to add something.
Tell me.
You told that Sankhyas do not believe in God. Now, that is correct. In common parlance, usually people believe that those who believe in God are astic, and those who don't believe in God are nastic. But I want to add that Patanjali Yoga Darshan is one of the 6 astic darshans. Nyaya, Vaisheshik, Sankhya, Yoga, and Purva Mimamsa and Uttar Mimamsa.
Absolutely right.
After of these 6 darshans, Sankhya and Purva Mimamsa, they don't believe in God. So people feel that astic means those who believe in God. But if we go by this definition, we can say that our philosophy is the most secular one. Where even if you don't believe in God, you are still astic. And you are still regarded as monk.
Yeah. So
we used to address Kapil as Kapil Muni, Kanad Rishi, who gave the concept of atom, Pilavaha.
Correct.
So Patanjali is one of them, and Sankhya plus God equal to Yoga. That is what I was taught.
So basically, the Patanjali defined astic, nastic, and deistic, three things. So astic said they believe in it. Now it means God. It means afterlife. Okay. So they believe in it is astic. They do not believe in it is nastic. And deistic is the ones who believe in fate, karma. So all the Shramana traditions are basically believe in karma, right?
Correct.
So these are the 3 things. But when you come to the darshanas, it became the philosophies, which is the Bauddha, Jaina, and Charvak.
Yes.
They said, I do not believe that the Vedas are authoritative, that the Vedas are infallible. So then that became the meaning, as only as far as darshanas are concerned, it became the meaning that those who do not believe in the authority of the Vedas are Nastika darshanas, and those who believe in the authority of the Vedas are the Astika darshanas, right? Now, but believe in God or not believe in God, you're absolutely right. Samkhya does not believe in God. Very, very clearly, it does not believe in God. Yoga, very like 25% believes in God, you know. But while the Bauddha and the Jainas, they do not believe in God. They atheistic or agnostic. Charvaka is, of course, totally materialistic. So
totally materialistic.
Yeah, it doesn't believe in God. So when you talk about darshanas, the meaning Astika and Nastika is I believe in the authority of the Vedas, I don't believe in the authority.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Can we close today's session?
Yeah, look like.
All right. Then
Once again. Thank you, Dr. Atul Sinha ji. Once again, it was a fantastic talk and very detailed, and really enjoyed very much. I hope everybody enjoyed also. And thank you for taking out precious time and gave us this, enlighten us with this Patanjali. It was
Thank
just marvelous. Thanks a lot.
thank you. See you in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, ji.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.